Hey everybody, thanks for being with us today. Loneliness in America has been on the rise. With the increase of social media, many people report having fewer close friends and actually feeling less connected.
Well, get this. Did you know that loneliness can actually be as bad for your health as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day?
That's a crazy number. People
Definitely.
still smoking cigarettes.
Well, I guess so. But there is good news. People who are experiencing loneliness do have ways they can improve their health and emotional well-being. Medical reporter Lori Johnson has the story.
Like millions of Americans, Ann Hales knows the depression and anxiety caused from feeling isolated.
Well, I was at home, no one there but myself, and it was so lonely I just didn't know what to do.
An introvert by nature, Ann stepped out of her comfort zone by joining a church sewing ministry.
And I've met so many people. My horizons have been broadened, and I don't have that loneliness anymore that I had before. It was terrible.
Ann's story shows how in-person social connection really helps.
Church is what's known as the third place, right behind home and work. People who regularly go to their third place tend to experience less loneliness and have overall better mental health.
Other third places range from clubs to community centers to coffee shops.
This might be going to the small group. This might be adding an accountability group. Or it might just be a conversation on your back porch with a couple friends, as long as you have it regularly.
In his book, Made for People, Justin Early says God's plan involves living in community.
We should understand friendship not as a luxury, but as a necessity to living the good life, physically and spiritually.
He believes the goal of regularly getting together with friends is vulnerability that ultimately leads to intimacy.
There's a difference between looking out into the world side by side, and that's meaningful, and turning to each other and saying, now let's talk about each other.
Don't make the mistake, however, of substituting online connections with the real thing.
There's studies that show that, the receptors in our brain, as we scroll through reels and, we get likes on certain things, there are centers in our brains that light up for that. But that's all short-lived. And all of a sudden, we're programming our brain to have these responses from a screen.
Doctors say even a little personal interaction is better than none at all.
It's okay to say hi to a stranger. Just a smile, just a quick hello. You don't know what they're dealing with that day. Not only is it good for your mental health, but it's probably great for theirs as well.
And kids feel lonely too.
It's so easy nowadays for families to come home and they just sort of isolate all separately into their own bedrooms and usually online.
Parents can help by getting kids together with their friends.
Make your home the place that you invite the friends over, buy a bunch of snacks, and maybe they watch a movie, but you got to take the phones out of their hands.
And for inspiration, Americans can look to Israel, which has next to no self-reported loneliness.
Communities don't create rituals. Rituals create communities.
In his book, The Genius of Israel, Dan Senor points out how Israelis bond over regular Hebrew rituals, such as Shabbat.
And if you go walk by any home in Israel on a Friday night, you will see whether they're secular Jews or they're very religious, traditional, observant Jews, they're all doing the same thing. And so there's this weekly ritual that brings people together.
He adds that Israelis see connecting to each other as part of something larger than themselves.
The whole notion of living in Israel is about togetherness and not just about doing whatever you do successfully on your own.
So in America, where many continue to struggle with loneliness, experts recommend a course correction by putting down the phone and prioritizing in-person relationships. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Really interesting report, and something that I actually just saw on social media this morning.
You were on social media.
I was on social media. I definitely am, but I try to put parameters in place that, to prevent some of the negative things that were obviously mentioned in that report. But it was actually an event in Amsterdam, and it was about 250 people came to this one church, this big kind of like cathedral church, put their phones away for several hours and just were together. I mean, complete strangers. Painting, somebody was playing the piano, drawing. Like, I just feel like we need to do more things like that. Would you ever go into a church with strangers? and draw.
I do it all the time when I go to church. There's some. That's
True,
interesting.
Are you drawing and are you painting?
I play the drums once in a while.
Wait, you play the drums in church?
No, I used to.
I was going to say.
Yeah, years ago. Those days are behind me. But I guess
we still got to get you on the show playing
But
drums.
there's an example, like going to church. Like a lot of people, during COVID, it was an excuse or a reason for a while not to go.
Yeah.
And some people just got more comfortable not returning, and because for whatever reason they feel like they don't need the fellowship or socialization anymore. Or maybe some people just have lost some social skill sets too,
Yeah, I think it's due time. If you're not back in church, I think it's definitely time to go back. Because really, and it was mentioned in that piece talking about Israel, rituals create community. You don't have to be Jewish to understand that. You don't have to have the Jewish faith to understand that. Just going to church on a Sunday, that is a ritual. You see similar people every Sunday. Oh, do you want to go and get lunch? Oh, let's set up a play date for our kids. Hey man, let's go golf or whatever the deal.
That's good. Yeah, obviously loneliness isn't a new thing, but maybe the dynamics of why people have become lonely is different. It's not unknown that after an extensive time on social media, people kind of sometimes can feel empty and this kind of thing. It is interesting that it's kind of accepted that people don't feel connected personally through social media. They just kind of know what other people are happening. But I'm not trashing it, but it's an interesting dynamic that's happened. And the fact that, loneliness is something that a lot of Christians deal with. And then they start to think, what's wrong with my faith, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes we just need to get out of our comfort zones. We just did a recent roundtable, me and 4 other guys here from CBN, talking about men and how lack of friendships is a problem. And that, of course, can lead to loneliness, too. So we need to stay on top of it before it becomes a problem.
Definitely. And I think the biggest takeaway here is, don't neglect face-to-face time with individuals. Make sure you're hanging out with people. And we're not saying that you gotta have 10 friends. just one friend, go hang out with them, because I think it's definitely gonna help.
And it's interesting the effect it has on our physical health as well.
True.